Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the children's songs and the adult songs. I appreciate it very much. And I enjoyed it from the front pew, but I left my Bible there. If Noah's on the way, if you could bring my Bible to me. It's like being back home. Those of you that have children, you have a special ministry for your children. And my wife and I, of course, that gave birth to this church, we feel like this is where we belong. We had some time away, but we are back now, and thankful that you're here to celebrate our return. And we're in James chapter 4 today. Remember, the Bible was written to help Christians, and if you don't have a Bible yet, we'd like to get you one. We have some Bibles here available if you need a Bible. The men have already distributed them. Anybody that missed a Bible, anybody that came in late, if you need a Bible, let us see this. James chapter 4, we learned in Sunday school the importance of little things. And I'm tapping a little thing here to see if it would work, but it doesn't seem to be working. We're working, technicians are working full-time there in the sound booth to get us working on the little things. Meanwhile, I'll stay by this bigger thing. And remember, we're talking about one little word today. It's in chapter 5, actually, but we're going to read chapter 4 to work up to this subject of patient. Be patient. 2 words. Be patient. One of the little sins that we Christians struggle with would be, I think, impatience. Impatience. Now, what's the context here? The Lord's going to come back, and James is trying to convince these early Jewish believers to be patient. The second real blessing on our time away was a little Jewish lady that was sitting beside my wife on the airplane. I'm only going to give a few details this morning, but more details tonight. This little Jewish lady came on in tears that she had just broken a relationship, and when she got off of the plane 4 hours later, after talking to my wife at least 2 hours, my wife sharing with her scripture, giving her a tract, seeing her interest in the gospel, and then having 2 hours to win her to Christ, she prayed the sinner's prayer and couldn't thank us enough for sharing with us the truth that James here is sharing with us, how to be saved and how to end up in heaven. That's the subject this morning. And again, thank you for those of us who prayed. That was one of the last things that happened on our time away, not to mention celebrating with Esther and Joe the birth of their most recent baby, little Ashlyn Kate Hawkins. Was a real delight to see. She's now 3 weeks old, and we had the joy of playing with her and their other 2 children, Benjamin and Samuel. But let's get back to James chapter 4 now and see why would the Lord want us to be patient. Could impatience be a sin? Could it be a sin of God's people? Absolutely. We have to deal with impatience, discontentment. All of those things can cause a Christian to miss the perfect will of God. And we start off here in chapter 4. I, again, want to preface my remarks to say I'm glad I didn't hear of any problems like this in my absence. This is a concern a pastor would have if he's out of town. He wonders what's going to happen with his church back home. James 4:1, from whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence even of your lust that war in your members? It would be easy to designate this to this conflict we're having with ISIS and all the Muslims and the communists. Could say, yeah, let's apply this to them. No, this is written to Christians. It's written to New England Baptist Church indirectly as saved people. Could we have some disagreements, some arguments, some criticism in a New England Baptist church? Yes, absolutely. And we know it's not a perfect church. And in the future, if we haven't had any recently, we will have some disagreements because discontentment is Satan's way of working. Little things like a bad spirit, a bad attitude will spread if it isn't controlled, if it isn't brought under control. So if you do hear any story that sounds a little like passing on, be careful. Don't pass it on. It may not be true. And that's how arguments and grumbling and quarreling begins. Look at verse 2. Ye lust, James says to these believers, and have not. You kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. You fight in war, yet you have not because you ask not. These were Christians, but they weren't praying Christians. They weren't praying. And so they didn't get an answer to their prayer. Verse number 3 says, you ask and receive not because you ask amiss. The ones that are praying now, they were asking for the wrong things, that you may consume it upon your lust or pleasure. Verse 4, ye adulterers and adulteresses. Here's some of the strongest language you'll find in the Bible. It's written to Christians.